Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be trying out Lovable. It's this kind of web app that you can use to build an application, from what I understand, using AI. So I spent a lot of time using Cursor and as a recent Windsurf as well. So I just want to see what this tool is about, how it's different and what the experience is. I've heard a few people building apps in this, but I don't really know what you would do with those apps afterwards, what that looks like. Are you then able to edit the code, or do you have to work through their kind of interface to modify your application? So yeah, let's dive into it and see what it's all about. Okay, so we got the site open here, build something lovable. So idea to app in seconds with your personal full stack engineer. Okay, so I guess I don't have to be the full stack engineer here. So I'm gonna be building a time tracker. Yeah, I'm always building a time tracker because that's what I built and spent a lot of time on. So just want to see what this would produce. Okay, so here's my prompt that I'm starting with. I honestly don't know if I should give it a lot or a little. This is what I'm going to start with. I want to build a time tracker for agencies to allow their people to track time and provide those hours to their client. This is a SaaS app, so it needs to be multi-tenant, and users need to be able to switch between tenants. As well, we probably need some basic reporting. So let's try and see just what we get. It's probably going to make me, sign in. Okay, so I'll sign up for free. Okay, we created our account, so now let's try and see what we get. Okay, so here's our prompt on the side. So I guess that's how we're going to work the AI to make further changes. So for this first version, I'll implement these core features, user authentication with tenant organization switching. So this is in a tool like Notion or Slack where you can switch between different workspaces, right? Most SaaS apps, modern day ones, have this. Dashboard with time tracking overview, time entry form with project client selection, basic reporting with visual charts, team member management. For the design aesthetic, I'm envisioning a clean professional interface with a focus on usability. Okay, gives me the color palette. That's pretty cool. Subtle animations, modern typography for readability, card-based layout for easy information. So it seems, yeah, it's writing everything. Okay, we can see the code here. Yeah, it's Tailwind, of course. I didn't even specify the technology, but yeah, I guess it's building in Tailwind. And I guess this solution does give you the code. I guess you do have to know how to code a bit because, yeah, how are you going to understand what this is? But yeah, this is Tailwind. So the Tailwind config file. Okay, and then our index file with the CSS app layout. And I guess it's not using Next.js. It's just using React. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's the sidebar trigger, the organization switcher. That's like to be able to switch between organizations. Now it's creating the time tracker component. Okay, so I guess there's no backend to start. It's just creating kind of the front end and it's using dummy data. Like these are our list of projects. And yeah, there's no backend. So I guess I have to specify that. Okay, yeah, this is the timer itself, the recent time entries. So I guess some reporting, creating a dashboard component now, time charts, and again, all just dummy data. There's no backend. So yeah, if you're not technical, there's no backend. So what that means is it's just creating an application for you that like it's going to load, and then the data that you're going to enter in or see is not going to be persisted. So if you refresh the browser, you lose everything. Like normally we have a backend to persist all this work, right? And save it to a database. So when you go and access this web app again, you would have all your time entries. But I'm sure that's what we can work with, the prompt afterwards to add something like I see here, like some kind of integration with managed Supabase, which is one of these backend systems where you can use directly in the front end. Like you don't have to create API, you can just automatically save into the database. So probably that is what it would use. But yeah, it's generating a lot of code, that's for sure. And I would imagine I have a file explorer somewhere, like where I could see the actual files. Okay, this is the code viewer. Oh, okay, and here is our actual files. So yeah, this is like the file system where you can navigate between the files. So yeah, looks like your typical basic React app. Oh, okay, it's using Vite. I'm not too familiar with that, but it's using Shad CDN. Yeah, so all makes sense because AI tools, a lot of them are being used to build React apps because React is just so popular. Okay, taking quite a while. Here's all the components. It's probably just all like shad CDN components that it's copying. This is probably going to look like shad CDN, like just your kind of generic Tailwind app, I think. Shad CDN is just like a component library. And the idea is you just copy the components to your repo, right? And then you go in and tweak them rather than using something like Bootstrap or PrimeNG, which you would add and then import those components from an external library. You just copy all these locally and then change them. Provides you like a good starting point. Okay. Okay, that's pretty cool. So they have a README. Welcome to your Lovable project. How can I edit this code? There are several ways of editing your application. So yeah, you can simply visit their URL and start prompting. So this seems to be this interface, and you can just work with the changes there. Okay, use your preferred ID. So if you want to work locally using your own ID, you can clone this repo and push changes. Push changes will also be reflected in Lovable. Oh, okay, so I guess you can have a hybrid approach. You can work in an ID and then an ID like Visual Studio or even Cursor to develop this further, and then push your changes and work with the prompt here. But at that point, I'm not seeing much of a difference between this and Cursor. So this just seems like a Cursor clone, honestly, the more I'm realizing. Okay, but then yeah, you can edit a file directly in GitHub. Use GitHub code spaces. And then, okay, it's telling you the technology it shows. What is Vite? Like I've heard about it, but I think it's a build system. Okay, yeah, it's a build tool. I was right. Okay, and then you can deploy it. I guess they have some way to host these. All right, let's see where it's at though, writing these files now. So it's writing the team report. And yeah, it's really going in depth. So I feel like we're going to get a lot out of the box. But again, there is literally no backend. So there's going to be no authentication system, no tenant system, no payment system. But for sure, it's going to give us a good starting point front end wise. Okay, so this is what we got. Not too bad. It looks like a generic Tailwind dashboard. Very familiar. Looks like Stripe. Okay, you have your switch organizations here, create organization, then your dashboard. What are you working on? This is a time entry, your projects, and you can start it and stop. Okay, and then it's saved here. You can go see our time entries, and then they're here. Yeah, it's pretty clean. Your projects, create a new project. Okay, that doesn't work. And then, yeah, then you got time reports here to get all the different reports. But I guess, yeah, it doesn't work. Team reports in your team. So yeah, visually, it's pretty impressive. It's kind of like starting from a template, but a contextual template where you give it kind of the features you want, and then it develops those components for it. Okay, so let's read what it said here. What's next? Refine and customize, master prompting, GitHub sync, debug with ease, add product knowledge. So to build a multi-tenant SaaS app with user accounts, tenant switching, and reporting, you'll definitely want to use Supabase for backend features like user management, data storage, and potentially even authentication. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It identified that there is no backend, and there's this button now to connect Supabase. So I can do that. So let's connect that. I'm guessing I'm not sure. Your Supabase organization has been linked. Your account, okay. So can you now connect Supabase and wire up a backend for everything? So yeah, we need a backend. We'll see what it does. No, yeah, I did that. Create a check project in Supabase. Okay, so I've used this before, but yeah, I guess I have to create a project. So we'll just say time tracker, and we'll just generate a password, create a new project. Okay, and then we'll connect this, and connecting it. Okay, now it's connected. Okay, so yeah, haven't created any tables in your Supabase project yet. Okay, all right, so now we'll ask it to implement the backend with Supabase. Can you implement Supabase now and an authentication system so we have a backend? So this is my prompt. Can you implement Supabase now and an authentication system so we have a backend? We'll start simple. That's not very simple. That's very broad, but I'll just see what it does. So yeah, Supabase, from my understanding, it's basically a wrapper over Postgres. So they just have a bunch of tools to help you manage it. And I guess, yeah, they also have an authentication layer. I've looked at it, but I've not played around too much with it. And then I think, yeah, they have libraries where your front end can connect directly to the database. And then you can just manipulate, right, the database. So you don't have to create like an API layer. It can save a lot of time. So here it's creating a script for the actual Postgres database, creating all the tables. So organization, profiles, organization members, clients, projects, time entries. Okay, enable RLS on all tables. Okay, that's impressive. That's for like multi-tenancy. So in a multi-tenant database where you just have one database, you usually have row level security to control when a user, like what data a user can read. Like you don't want someone being able to pull everyone's time entries. You just want them to be able to pull like time entries from the tenant or the organization they're in. So it's pretty cool that it's doing that. It's pretty decent like security awareness. Okay, yeah, and this is creating a function to check if they're a member of the organization. Policy. Okay, so yeah, wow, pretty interesting. It's doing all this. Yeah, it gives me the ability to review this. So you do need to be a developer and quite experienced, right? Like most people are not going to know row level security. So yeah, I cannot imagine someone building like a SaaS app without knowing SQL. Like how would that even work? You'd just be like, oh, hit apply and just trusting that it's going to make sure all the kind of settings are set up correctly on your database. Even I'm not an expert in Postgres, right? So I don't know if stuff is missing. So yeah, that's just something concerning. But okay, I'll hit apply. I've reviewed the SQL and it looks good. Please run it. So I keep getting this build error. Okay, SQL already ran. So I guess now if we go here, we'll see that we have all these tables. Table editor. Okay, yeah, clients, organization, organizations. Okay, that's pretty cool. And now that the database structure is set up, it's going to go and implement the authentication system and connect it to our app. And yeah, it's going to fix some errors, it said. And this is quite impressive so far, but I guess the challenge will be, I think, as the solution continues to evolve, like as you add more and more files, more and more components, is it going to be able to retain all that context to further build out things properly? And what do I mean by properly? Like keeping the same consistent style, knowing to reuse like components that you've already created, not creating new design patterns, making sure things are done in like a secure manner, right? Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I think it would struggle with that. Cursor, these tools, they struggle with context. They struggle with understanding the whole application because maintaining the context of these apps is just very expensive. You have to use more tokens probably in the AI model. So they're always like trying to reduce it or trying to optimize how much context of the app they can keep in. That's why in Cursor, you can get better results when you help it by giving it kind of references to other files. Okay, it seems like it's done now. So great, I've implemented a complete authentication system for my app and fixed the build errors. Yeah, to use this app, you'll need to sign up with a username and password. Okay, so it looks pretty nice. Went with a nice purple. And let's put in an email and sign up. Okay, and I have to verify my account, or can I just log in? Okay, email not confirmed. Okay, so yeah, here's the email. I don't even have to set up any email thing. I guess Supabase also handles all this. So I'll go and confirm that. But now I should be able to log in. Okay, switch organization, create organization. I don't think this is working though. Yeah, that's not working. But yeah, now we have some dynamic functionality. So let's ask it now, can you implement the backend for projects now as well? So I guess you have to work with it in iterations. Like it's not just going to go off and do the whole thing because yeah, that would probably just be too much. It literally built this whole thing with one prompt. So that was cool. But I guess that's like the initial prompt. After that, maybe have to work with it iterative. Okay, so yeah, it's going off and setting up the form. I thought we already had a form, didn't we? I guess not. No, sorry, we didn't. We had nothing would happen when we hit new project. So now we have our project. So can I create one? All right, so there's an error. Okay, and it seems yeah, you can have it try and fix its errors. Okay, now I need to sign up. I've reached your daily messaging limit. Upgrade now to get more credits. So I have to buy their pro plan for more projects and usage, 100 credits a month. What is a credit consist of? Yeah, that's not really clear. Okay, a credit. If I do a prompt, that's one credit. Because yeah, this can get quite expensive then. Okay, so here's the messaging limits. Understanding messages limits for Lovable. LLMs are expensive, which is why Lovable limits the amount of messages that you can send. Yeah. So price, free. Okay. So tier 1, monthly messages, 100. You get, but what does that mean? What is a message? Is that like one prompt? Oh, wow. So yes, each message sent counts 1 credit, regardless of the length. So this is quite expensive. So I just do that, and that's going to use 1 credit. So $25 a month. That means, yeah, each one is 1 credit is 25 cents. Okay, I think I'm done here. Yeah, I'm sure it scales, but I'm not seeing the value add of this platform over just using Cursor, which you get unlimited of the base models, not the premium models. But yeah, this is honestly just a fancy Cursor wrapper. And yeah, the development environment is worse as well. They did produce a cool application that looks pretty, but you can get the same thing with Cursor, right? By just giving it a prompt and it will go set up your app for you. So yeah, I'm done with this tool. Impressive, like what you can do. But if you're a developer, there's not much point using this. I would just say use Cursor, use Windsurfer. Looks like it's going to be cheaper. They're charging you 25 cents per prompt, basically, from what I understand. So that's just going to be quite expensive. If you're non-technical, should you use this? I honestly do not understand how you're going to build something as a non-technical user. There's code here, there's errors. It's just probably going to be so frustrating trying to navigate this. And like I said earlier, the security issues you are going to not be aware about. I don't really understand someone building without knowing how to program. Yeah, you could launch something, but like you wouldn't even understand that there's no backend, right? If you're non-technical. So you have to be technical. Look, I had to go and set up Supabase and understand there's tables here. So yeah, this is definitely not a tool for non-technical people. And for technical people, I wouldn't really recommend using it. I'm going to be looking at other ones like Bolt and V0 as well, just to see if they're more or less the same and how kind of the pricing works. But if you've been using Lovable, would love to hear your take on it as well. Thanks for watching.